Fredrick Brennan, founder of 8chan, is supposedly dead. Apparently, one of the guys at the podcast, I'm from the internet, this could be fake for attention, I don't fucking know, claims that Fredrick has died. This is evidenced slightly by the fact that Fredrick has not been active on Blue Sky in several months, but supposedly he is dead. Nobody knows for sure, though. He was complaining about Chinese semiconductor and the American trade war, saying that America lost the semiconductor war to China already. And I have some eulogies to read. Liz Fong Jones, one of Frederick's last accomplices in life before his death, says this: "Rip Fredrick Brennan. He didn't just get 8chan taken down, he also helped fight all kinds of online radicalization and hatred." Wire Witch Violet says, "Am I witnessing irony here or baffling historical revisionism?" Liz Fong Jones replies, "By the way, he's gotten a new headshot to try and make himself look less ugly, and his idea of making himself look less ugly is just to use Photoshop to remove like half his facial features. But it's like you have a head of like a tea kettle. You're fucked, bro. You're fucked. There's no you're completely fucked. I don't know why you try. There's no amount of money in the world that's gonna make you look like half decent, even by men's standards." How much of the beginning of Drop Kiwi Farms did you see? We are talking about a pre-2018 Brennan, who I freely acknowledge was a dangerous villain who harmed a lot of people, including you, versus 2018 Brennan, who genuinely experienced contrition and tried to make amends after he understood the monster he unleashed, it seemed. Contrition. Contrition is a word that I only ever see used in religious contexts, like a come to Jesus moment. He felt contrition for the wrong that he had done, and he expressed that in his faith. And to see Liz Fong Jones use that word as if he was bowing down, his crippled, broken body bowing down to the altar of troon cock and faggotry and the moral abscess which it exists in, is kind of a little bit more telling than I think he would have wanted. This is a comment by Robert Evans, replied to by Sophie LaBelle. Robert Evans says, "Just found out Fredrick Brennan died. I only met him in person once, but I always had a lot of respect for his personal growth and ownership of his past. More than anything, I respected his commitment to changing himself for the better. He was a good guy. So it goes." Sophie LaBelle says, "Huh? He personally apologized for how vile Achan had been to me around 2018. He also tipped me whenever 4chan or Kiwi Farms was doxing me or my family members. He certainly helped me not give up on humans." It's like a roll call for every troglodyte freak. I remember this. So this guy posts, oh my god, this is so hard to explain. But when 8chan was really taking off and a bunch of the poll guys were flipping over to 8chan, the big hot lolcow at the time was oh god, how do I forget his fucking name? I've spoken to this guy. Ben Garrison. Because Ben Garrison was like a boomer conservative. And Ben Garrison had very like mild, kind of like Alex Jonesy takes, which at the time were not at all associated with like the kind of far right that 8chan was in. And so what they would do is they would take a white man comics, which were extremely anti, like he did the merchant with the hand rubbing meme that's super popular. He drew that. They would take a white man comics and they would replace his signature with the Ben Garrisons and distribute them. And Ben Garrison would freak the fuck out. So of course they kept doing it. And they kept doing it on poll on 8chan. So Ben Garrison actually joined up on 8chan and started arguing with people on the poll threads, like while I was there. And I've said this on podcasts before. I've lost this email forever, but I emailed Ben Garrison and I said like that people would probably agree with his politics and he would find like an honest fan base if he just kind of embraced people and palled around with them instead of being super angry and trying to control everything. And he sent me an email, categorically denied absolutely everything that I had told him. He rejected all the advice I had given him to me. And then like within that week, he had contacted and this is one of the things that he posted on 8chan when he was like ranting about 8chan being mean to him. The title of this I remember very distinctly. Um, it was something about hell. It was like living in his own personal hell or something. It was like an extremely vicious like title. And then they all thought it was base because his nickname was Hot Wheels already. So they're like, look, his wheels are hot. He's Hot Wheels, and they kind of like owned it. But it was after this drawing he contacted Fredrick and he made a drawing of 4chan's Moot, um, holding luggage, and he was called like he was dressed up as a duck, and he was called Cuckaduck, the luggage lad. And he drew this for 8chan. He signed it as Ben Garrison. I think they even sold merchandise of it, and they ate it up. And it was from then on, Ben Garrison was a hero of the people and not a lolcow because he shit on Moot for being a cuckold, which, as we found out later, he was actually just a faggot, and that's why he was helping her with her luggage because he didn't actually want to fuck her at all. Um, he's vaxxed. Vaxxed? Yes, actually, vax to the max. Now we can only hope for the vax gods to take Liz Fong Jones next. Next, we have a obituary from Jim Stewartson saying, Fred Brennan was one of the worst human beings who has ever existed. He tormented people his entire life for fun and money. He founded Wizard Chan, the original incel rape and murder fantasy website. True. He created 8chan, the worst website on earth, to house Gamergate, sold it to child pornographer Jim Watkins, and moved in with him. He did an op-ed in the Daily Stormer to attract Nazis to his website, which he regularly hosted live murders and child porn. After getting fired by Jim Watkins, Fred spent several years promoting false narratives about QAnon to the left after a fake conversion and conning the press. He spent 4 years harassing and smearing me and my friends with a team of stalkers and trolls because I had the temerity to get QAnon right. Q, Into the Storm is deliberate misinformation, and Fred Brennan can rest in hell. So Jim Stewartson's take about calling it the worst website ever and being super bitter about this shit is entirely based on the fact that Jim Stewartson has repeatedly, and I think even gotten sued for, former General Mike Flynn, because he said that Mike Flynn was QAnon and that the Trump regime was deliberately releasing tidbits of information through Mike Flynn into the public as Q. And that is wrong. I 100% back up what Fredrick said. If I remember correctly, I back it up if I remember correctly. And if I remember, what he said is that it was either Jim or Ron or some combination. But I think it's just Ron. Ron's a smart guy. He's a very cool head. He is entirely capable of that kind of charade. He is he finds that kind of social experimentation to be very funny and interesting. He had something to gain from doing it, which was attracting attention to 8chan when it was floundering. Like, he had every reason in the world to do it. He had the means and capacity to do it. He had the history of being interested in those kinds of things. It's definitely Ron. If you don't know, let me just pull up a picture of him because people might not know who Ron Watkins is. Ron Watkins is, here we go. Oh God, he dresses up in a cowboy hat. Now it's embarrassing. This is Ron. He was the Jim Watkins son. And there's our boy Jim. Jim would go to different Asian countries and set up franchises. He had different half Asian kids in every Asian country on the East China seaboard. I think Korean. I think Ron is. I don't know where he might actually be Japanese. I think he's a Japanese one too. But he lived in Japan, I think. He definitely had a bunch of different kids, but I think Ron was his protege or whatever. But that's why Jim Stewartson's angry. Jim, by the way, is a horrible man. I'll just save it. I'll save my fucking rants for these people. And then I have a very special comment by Patrick S. Tomlinson. If only 8chan could have died with this monster. He spent his entire adult life making the entire world measurably worse and more dangerous for marginalized people, including the disabled. May he burn in hell as a warning to the army of incel fascists he created. Enjoy hell, crippled child. And if you're wondering, yes, I really did meet Fredrick in person. We lived in the same apartment complex. There were 4 buildings that were on 4 different blocks connected at different levels together so we could see each other within 5 minutes or so. You can't tell. I'm the fat white one that's not crippled, wearing the K-Flay hoodie. To the left of me is Mochi, his aide. To the right of me is some girl from Pinoy on HN, and to the left of Mochi is some other guy from HN from Pinoy. So it was like a small Pinoy gathering. We went to go see, I think, a crypto convention or something in Manila. And yeah, I didn't meet Fredrick. We didn't hang out as much as you would suspect for me living there. I was always working. Sometimes I'd come over and he'd show me stuff like he was working on. He didn't work on HN very much. I remember he worked on fonts a lot. I actually had someone message me saying that they discovered one of the fonts they used was the New York Times font that had been digitized by Fredrick. And he was laughing about it because he had discovered that the New York Times font was like a web font that he could download in their browser. So he just took that and changed it. He traced over it to make the New York Times font an open source font and then published it because he's like, fuck the New York Times, bunch of liberal faggots. And he found mirth in trolling. He really liked to troll people. He loved to just piss people off. Now, it would give him unironic, genuine mirth to stick his fingers in the eyes of absolutely everybody. And he would do it in any passive, shitty, vindictive, petty way he possibly could, including tracing fonts. I have it's very hard for me to articulate how I feel about this time in my life because I did learn a little bit and I feel like I missed out. On one hand, I'm very happy with where my life has progressed, and I don't know if it would have progressed so let me just say I like Ron. Ron's very smart, very funny. Jim is one of the angriest people I have ever met. One of the most dumb, savage, angry, belligerent fucking cunts I have ever fucking met. This dude blows up anytime he does not get his way. It's Jim's world. Everything in Jim's world is about Jim. And you have to, he's just, you can't work with him. You can't negotiate with him. You can't joke around with him. He would take retreats to mountaintops to do meditation sessions for weeks at a time. In fact, the one time I actually met him, it was let me just set the stage for you, okay? When I was in HN, okay, when I was working with them and doing this, I was working on a forum rewrite called Infinity Next. This was a PHP rewrite of image board software that was desperately needed because the site was falling apart. And we crowdfunded from HN about $6,000. Most of that being people who donated $100+. People might remember this as being 12,000 plus. The majority of those donations came from Fredrick. He had offered me money and I refused to take his money. So he simply started telling me, oh, I received a $5,000 donation from so-and-so for Infinity Next. And he just gave it to me. And he told me later that he lied and he was giving me all that money himself because I refused to take his money if he told me that it was his money. So half of the project was funded directly by him. It lasted 7 months. So that was a budget of less than $2,000 a month while I was there. People from 8chan during this time still hold this against me, said that I stole the money. The software is out there. It's open source. Anyone could play with it. The issue is that I promised before Jim got involved that it would be under the AGPL license. And if you don't know anything about software licenses, AGPL is what's called a copyleft license, which means that if you take the software and change it, and very specifically with the AGPL, if put it online, you have to offer an open source repository of your modifications. So you have to contribute back into the open source community because Fredrick's big concern was that 4chan would eventually take the software and just start using it themselves. He's like, I don't want to fund 4chan software if they use it. So it has to be open source. If they want to use it, they have to do share alike with their own changes. So that was the point. AGPL license, copyleft. Jim, however, is an own it kind of guy. It's Jim's world. You got to play by his rules, which means that he wanted the software entirely by himself. So 5 months into development, Jim comes literally down off a fucking mountaintop, having meditated for the last 2 weeks to deal with his anger management issues. Literally, not a joke. That's what he was doing. Comes down to meet me in a coffee shop. He wants to give me $2,000 a month and a place to stay, rent paid. And I was, of course, like, super excited about this. I'm like, yes, the guy, big rich guy who owns 2chan is going to bankroll this shit. All my problems solved. I can focus on writing the fucking code, which is what I want to do. And while I'm there, this is the first issue that's brought up. He says, we have to close source it. I'm saying I can't do that. I already billed this to the people of the site that we will use AGPL. And I don't even think legally I can change the license at this point, because I sold it to people. They gave me thousands of dollars to publish the software under a share alike license. And me telling him no, this fat retard wearing a sweatshirt in a subtropical human environment in the middle of summer, telling him that I cannot and will not do what he's asking because it would be unethical, literally sent this man into a fucking fit. We bought coffee. None of us had finished our coffee before that conversation was over. He storms out in a fucking rage and calls Fredrick immediately while he's walking down the street to find his car. He's like, I'm not going to be involved with development. I'm not funding development. I never want to see that fucking guy again. He's a fucking asshole. It's like chewing me out because I just told him the reality that 5 months of work had been done on $10,000 for a specific software license. And I tried to weasel around, like, look, we can probably do modules and stuff like the advertisement system. We can probably make that closed source and not infringe the license. But like, the actual software has to be open source because that's how people wanted it. But no, he wouldn't have it. Fredrick funded however many thousands of dollars after that by himself out of pocket. The donations for the development dried up. And then in January, was probably one of the most painful things that I ever went through in my entire life. There was an issue with the software. I was trying to launch it. I was trying to test it because we needed to launch it. The site was dying under issues. And it needed to go out because we needed it to run. So I set up demonstration servers for 8chan. 8chan's new software on, I remember it was Odili time, gave me a dedicated server. We set up Infinity Next on it, and I asked people to go out and to test it, to shit post as hard as they possibly could, upload images, post as fast as you want. I got rid of all the limits, and I made sure so that people could post extra fast that we got rid of the CAPTCHA as well so that they could just post as much as they wanted to. And the software ran awesome. Everyone was super fucking happy. A bunch of people gave me shit during the development cycle, but they were happy with the software. The sports board actually moved over at some point to the demo site. And that was another sticking point, is that at some point I closed the demo site after they had moved over to test it. And they just stayed there on the demo site. And when I closed it, all the sports people, to this fucking day, people from SP on 8chan fucking despise me because their site, their board was so slow. And I closed the demo site and they hold it over my fucking head. But it worked. It worked great. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's launch. It's a simple software thing. It's not complicated. It's a fucking image board. Let's do it. And I launched it. I moved all the data over that was existing and it didn't work. It was slow as shit. It crashed constantly. And I stayed up for multiple days trying to figure out what was happening. And I lost faith in it. I lost faith in myself. Fredrick decided, okay, time to throw this guy under the bus. Blamed everything on me. Said I was a fucking loser. Said I was he said I was an amphetamine addict because I made a joke to him once about getting Adderall so I could work more. I never took Adderall while I was in the Philippines. I've taken Adderall one time and I was in college, and he tried to pawn me off as a literal fucking meth addict. Completely just dropped me and sided with Jim because Jim had the money and said, fuck you. And I flew back. I left. The Philippines. I moved back to the United States. And the issue was never resolved. Fredrick found another bug with the Infinity Next, the existing software, and fixing that allowed the software to continue on for another year before it completely fell apart. But he also blamed that bug completely on me. I mentioned this because in the 7 months that I was working on Infinity Next, he had access to the server. He could have done diagnostics. He could have found that bug, and he could have given me more time. The reason why I decided to go through with the push was because Fredrick, the 8chan was just breaking. It was dying. It was crashing for minutes at a time, and it was like the site is going to fucking die unless it can go live. If Fredrick had fixed that, I would have had more time to finish my work. So then I get home, and then that month later, after I've kind of woken out of my 7-day binge, I look at the software, and the issue was the CAPTCHA. The reason why I never found it in production is because when we were doing beta test, I disabled the CAPTCHA to make sure everybody could post as fast as they wanted to, and it was actually the CAPTCHA itself. And if I had just disabled the CAPTCHA and reduced its complexity, it would have launched, and 8chan might have been on Infinity Next. So I got completely fucked over in every way, shape, and form. I did everything I possibly could. And I failed to deploy it completely and totally by myself with no support from anybody except basically Fredrick. When Fredrick withdrew his support, that's it. So after that, I refocused on the Kiwi farms, and I left from the US where I was at to Ukraine. And I needed money, so I started doing a podcast, and then Christchurch happened, and then Drop Kiwi Farms happened, and now I have to deal with a gay pedophile trying to spam my site too, just like how 8chan got spammed. And by the way, one other thing, and this is kind of something that taints my my perspective on Fredrick in retrospect, is I always held him up as like this free speech absolutist libertarian. I don't know if anyone knows this. I think he might have discussed it at some point. Fredrick kept an IP vault of every post ever made. It was called Project Sunshine or something. After there was some school shooting or something that was linked back to 8chan, and he couldn't give them any IPs. So if anyone posted on 8chan on the ClearNet, their IP was permanently recorded in a special vault that he kept by himself called Sunshine. And if law enforcement made any LEO requests, he would just give the IPs to them from that. That way, if a thread gets deleted or something, he still had something to give law enforcement to get them to fuck off. And I don't know. His issue, he liked two things. He liked pissing people off as much as possible, and he would do whatever it took to make himself comfortable. In the time that I knew him, his history was that he came from Wizard Chan. And if you don't know what Wizard Chan is, it's back before incels became this mainstream terminology thing. It was just an idea, kind of like on R9K on 4chan. And the people who posted on R9K were forever alone, unfuckable, unlovable incels, what they called themselves. So there's a meme. I can find it real quick. Yeah, here. The original. This is it. This is the original. This meme was popular on V, and it was like official virgin age meters. So after 30, you became a wizard. So they started referring to themselves as wizards, and that's why it was called Wizard Chan. Wizard Chan was founded by Fredrick. It was passed off to other people. It got into the news every so often because they would like do organized harassments of women. Like during Gamergate, they went after Zoe Quinn or some shit, and then a bunch of people got sent there. It was a big deal. One of our former admins, Glaive, was an admin on Wizard Chan as well. So I knew Fredrick, who was the founder. I knew Glaive as well, who was an admin. And I mention this because I don't know why I mentioned this. Oh, because the reason why he left Wizard Chan is he I'll show you. Mm, no, dude. Google Images is like the most useless fucking thing I have ever fucking seen. I don't know how it got so fucking bad, but it is just a complete and total piece of utter shit. And it can't find a single fucking thing anymore. When Fredrick was the admin of Wizard Chan, he hooked up with a woman and lost his virginity. And so there's a quote that's in the random text of the Kiwi Farms that says something like, he betrayed his role as Archmagus by cavorting with like a femoid or something. And that's about Fredrick. Um, However, the reason why he lost his virginity may surprise you. It was not because he was such a sexy bad boy or whatever. It was because she was a pillhead. Fredrick actually lived his entire life, according to what he told me, without any kind of painkillers, unless he had recently broken a bone, which happened frequently. But he had managed pain in regards to his condition. His girlfriend was a pillhead, and she asked him to beg doctors to get subscriptions, and they gave him painkillers out the fucking ass. She was a painkiller junkie, and she fucked up his room in a fit of rage when they broke up. And then when he moved to Manila, he had an issue where he was still addicted to painkillers, and you can't get like a super strong prescription in the Philippines unless it's like super super necessary. And he literally begged. He told me he begged and cried at a doctor in the Philippines to get a subscription for whatever the fuck his medication was. But he said it was like the good shit. He said it was like the really good shit. Um, so that's how he lost his virginity. I don't know. I had fun in the Philippines, and it was a fun project. I remember the days of working on HN very fondly. Um, but now it's like nothing but a source of misery for me. Like there's so many people from HN who just despise me because they think that I fucked up everything and stole people's money and I did meth. And then conversely, the people not on HN say that I was actively involved in a child pornography site because Fredrick had a rule where little girl posting was fine. Like there was an entire board called Cute Girls, which was like just non nude images of children, and he defended that. And when I tried to replicate 8chan on my own site, I actually added a rule where it's like, okay, you can be a creepy pedophile, but you can't post any pictures of kids at all. And that's always been construed as me trying to like defend or promote child pornography, and that's kind of like fucked up my entire life as well. So the long-term consequences of dealing with Fredrick and with 8chan are horrific, and they're still felt to this day. And I don't know. I just wanted to give my people a home. I very fondly remember posting on 4chan as a teenager. I very fondly remember my time shit posting. And 8chan was like, 4chan is fucking back. It's exactly how I remember it. And I'm going to do everything that I can to try and stabilize this shit. And it was probably the biggest mistake of my life. If I really think on it, it was probably the single biggest fuck up of all time. And I would not recommend it. If you were ever going to ask, like, should I get into image board hosting? No, do not do it. Don't get into it. It's not worth it. It's dead. It's dead forever. Okay. It's dead forever. It's never coming back. Um, that's just how it is. So, anyways, Fredrick was the most vindictive person I've ever met. His abject cruelty was shocking, even to me, someone who is known for being abjectly cruel to people for some reason. And Ron Watkins was no. Ron Watkins is QAnon. Jim Watkins is one of the most bitter, dented old men of all time. And Wizard Chan still around? It is. Does it get post? Unique posters, 10,000. How big? How popular is this? A year building something I don't understand. An AI that this is spam. Hot Wheels just died. It's locked. Why is it locked? Oh, there's a thread for it. Ooh, let's. Okay, so the first post on this Wizard Chan memorial for Fredrick is, I hate fatty no legs. Base God has finally gotten around to killing Fred Brennan, who should have never been born at all to begin with. Rip, he's actually how I know this place. As to spit, he became the most insufferable, disgusting kind of person and has been stroking his ego for the past 5 years with the man who brought down the evil that was 8chan. Inside that putrid little body was a rotten heart that would have proactively sought to destroy the internet Zuckerberg style if he didn't get tired out from having his gay partner bum him every night, toss his diaper fur ass in a shoebox and ship him to India. I forgot to mention that he was a diaper fur. He became a diaper fur at some point. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. He was never if in case you're wondering, he was never a diaper fur in my presence. I never had to change any diapers, okay? This was his first Sona. For some reason, he was also fat in his first Sona. Let's see. Somehow I am very doubtful the original user base knows how this little dud betrayed the site is still kicking. I began lurking WizChan back when he was an admin and went by the name Copy Paste. I actually talked to him on IRC a couple times ago. I didn't know he died. Good riddance. Seeing this faggot being liked more than an even bigger faggot, Josh Moon from Kiwi Farms, is pretty funny, but it doesn't change the fact that he was an annoying, vile faggot. Joshua Moon is too much of an attention whore, plus the obvious. I learned about his biography from Blackpill, how I witnessed the darkest corners of the internet come to life, poison society, and caption American politics. Ella Reeve. Should I name search? What does it say? It's just so funny to me how some able-bodied whoremonger like Josh Moon is coping and seething about not being the one to start 8chan and WizChan to antagonize other virgin men who he hates. I hate fatty no legs and the fat whiz mentioned here for hating virginity that much than having the audacity to act like they're entitled to some legitimacy of association, but to be envious of them like Josh is, bro. I honestly don't know what the fuck this is saying. If you have your own take, leave a comment below. And a glowy cooperative sociopath. Don't forget that. Well, if I get a fucking subpoena, I have to answer that. Okay, there's no bad images here. The succubus he fucked was so fat and ugly it turned him gay for life. What turned him gay for life was that he tried to get his Filipino aides to be his 4 purchase wives, and they just fucked with their boyfriends. I remember that. That was something that constantly kept him angry. Mochi, aforementioned girl to my left, had a boyfriend, and he was like really trying to pressure her to break up with her boyfriend and become like his bang maid wife. It's like a quote from a book. Fuck that. Elon Musk claims that Fred founded WizChan. I think there might have been one guy before Fredrick, but I remember him being the founder. Okay, there you go. That's Wizard Chan. It's still there. It hates him. Surprise. Do you know anybody at all who was associated with an image board? This is a true question. I'm being serious here. Do you know anybody at all who was associated with image boards and is still to this day held in high regard by the community on the image board? You got Fredrick Brennan, you got Moot, you got Hiroyuki, you got Audrey, the guy that ran 420chan. There's not a Mark, the guy that runs VG. Yeah, I'll give it to you. Mark Man, the fat Jew from New York who beats off to Lolicon. He is held in high regard because when push came to shove, he was like, no, leave them lollies alone. And he held up the bulwark, and all the Lolicons crowded behind him under his shadow and under his cape in his shadow and said, please, Mark Man, please lead us to the promised land. And he did.